Hello, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. You're the one, the only Sportcat, often imitated, never duplicated or replicated. I don't know. This show today is operating on Band-Aids and gum, so I'm asking everybody that is listening to me tickle your ears to please come over and find me on the YouTube. I could certainly use some subscriptions. We're trying to get monetized, so that would be very helpful if you will come over and check us out. Find us under the Para Are Normal Guys, 3 words, Para Are Normal Guys, spelled with a Z. And of course, you can always search out the Sportcat shows to find me. So let's see here. When you come over and join the chat, you will have a great chat. We have, well, Brenda is here. I guess she's here first because I bitched at her yesterday. So hello, Brenda. And Denise is here. Welcome, Denise. Glad you're here. And Chris, he is here. And Chris, before you say it, everyone, please remember to like, share, follow, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell too, so you know when I'm going live. Because if you notice on today's show, there's actually 2 of them scheduled. Don't ask. I don't know. It's aliens. So I hope everybody's having a great day. Let's see what we got here. Another day where I'm just wondering why the hell I got out of bed. Some days are just like that. All right. Let's see. Let me see what I can bring up here. That's right. Many people have talked about this chat. Big and beautiful and perfect it is, because it's got perfect and beautiful listeners, except for maybe Brenda, but we're not going to talk about that. So I kind of give Brenda shit. I love her. All right. Well, I hope. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Brenda. I appreciate it. I don't know what the hell happened with the studio. I went in it and was setting up, and the studio went completely nuts before I went over to Jurg's radio, and it wasn't there. So I had to recreate it, and then it appeared again. So you'll see there's another show scheduled at the same time as this one, but this is the only one we're using because this is where the cool people are. Okay, so we talk about history every day because, as Ross and I just discussed, if we don't learn from it, we're doomed to repeat it. So I would say probably not, since he only messes with me on the radio. I gotta stop that song too. It's probably playing somewhere. All right, there, that stopped. And yes, I do miss you. And yes, I am a dick. So there you go. All right. I don't even know what the hell this is, but it's a letter to the Japanese Empire or Emperor. And it was on Kublai Khan's second Mongol invasion of Japan. His invading Chinese fleet of 3,500 vessels disappears in a typhoon near the Japanese coast. In 1842, U.S. Colonel Worth declares the Second Seminole War over after nearly 7 years. Over 3,000 surviving members of the Seminole Nation are forced to relocate from Florida to Oklahoma, with only about 300 permitted to remain. Man, that's a big difference. They had to get used to some harsh weather up there. And see, we talked about this yesterday. White people did this. We don't deny it. So let's see. Chris says that other show scheduled is far less. Yeah, all right. Well, chat's full of jerks. Tell them to come over here, Chris. We need jerks. In 1945, VJ Day, the Empire of Japan surrenders unconditionally to the Allies, ending World War II. August 15 in Japan and other countries, depending upon the time zone. 1947, Pakistan gains independence from the United Kingdom. That reminds me, speaking of time zones, I got to put my clock up. There we go. In 1969, the British Army deploys to the streets of Northern Ireland, beginning Operation Banner. I'm not familiar with that one. 1980, 17,000 workers strike at the Lenin shipyard in Gdansk, Poland, beginning the Solidarity movement. 1938, BBC's first feature film on TV, The Student of Prague. 1995, the Battle of Brit Pop, Rival band Oasis, Roll With It, and Blur, Country House, released singles on the same day. I thought that was between the Beatles and the Rolling Stones back in the 60s. 1909, Bristol Motor Speedway in Indiana, home of the Indy 500s, hosts its first motorized events, a series of motorcycle races. 1987, Mark McGwire sets the rookie home run record at 39 en route to 49. Let's see here. What's Chris say? That pick was taken shortly before V-Day turned into BJ Day. Yes, it was. And Brenda says it could have been VD Day. Hey, you never know. You never know. Those sailors had been around the world, so who knows? 1751, Mary Blandy poisons her father. Francis Blandy of Henley-on-Thames, England, falls into a coma and dies after his daughter Mary poisons him with arsenic. He had disapproved of Mary's relationship with William Cranston, a married man from Scotland, and Mary claimed that she believed the arsenic was a love potion that would change her father's mind. She was found guilty of patricide and hanged in 1752. I thought they did guillotines back then. And in 1851, this will be relevant for today, Russian explorer Grigory Shelkov finds Russia's first permanent settlement in Alaska at Three Saints Bay. And in 1851, Doc Holliday is born. An American gambler and gunfighter. He is born John Henry Holliday in Griffin, Georgia, not too far from me. He is known for his close friendship with U.S. Marshal Wyatt Earp, whom he enlisted at the infamous shootout at the OK Corral between the Arizona city of Tombstone in 1881. He had worked previously as a dentist in Georgia before he was diagnosed with TB and moved out west in hopes that the drier climate would help his symptoms. However, 6 years after the OK Corral gunfight, he died of TB in Colorado. Brenda says, I'm embarrassed I didn't think of that one. Very well done. Yes. Oh, Brenda, don't give any of my chat members sexually transmitted diseases. In 1880, construction is completed on the Cologne Cathedral after more than 600 years of construction. Wow, that's a long time. Germany's Cologne Cathedral is finally completed. The 515-foot building is the tallest twin-spired church in the world, as well as the largest Gothic church in Northern Europe. Construction originally began in 1248 and work proceeded intermittently until the 16th century, when it stopped altogether. A large medieval crane marked the Cologne skyline for 400 years as the building sat unfinished, but in the 1880s, the original plan for the church's facade was discovered, and construction finally resumed in 1842. Well, think about this. How long did it take to build the pyramids? Just a thought. 1900, the Boxer Rebellion is crushed. European, American, and Japanese forces seize Beijing to crush the Boxer Rebellion. The Boxer Rebellion was an anti-foreigner rebellion fought by the, quote, Boxers, or Chinese villagers, many of whom had martial arts experience. At the time, the Western missionaries were prevalent in China, spreading Christianity. China had lost the Sino-Japanese War 5 years earlier, and ordinary Chinese people worried that foreign interference would eventually take over Qing government. The Boxers started the rebellion by attacking missionaries across the country. The Chinese government's inability to control the Boxers led to direct foreign military intervention. In total, up to 300,000 Boxers fought against 225,000 European, American, and Japanese forces. The conflict ended in the Boxers' defeat and led to the severe weakening of the Chinese government. So, if, like we talked about, if we don't learn from history, and this rebellion was against Christians in 1900, And what are they doing now? And there's 1945. World War II comes to an end. That's the famous photo following the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japan announces its unconditional surrender to the Allies, celebrated as VJ, our Victory Day over Japan. The surrender brought an end to WW2, the war between the Axis powers of Germany, Italy, and Japan, and the Allied powers of France, Great Britain, and the United States and Soviet Union, resulted in at least 50 million deaths, making it the bloodiest conflict in world history. And we're thinking about doing it again, huh? That's the rumor going around, if you believe that kind of thing. I don't have any. You got to be having sex to get some. Touche. Touche. Oh, all right. So every day has a day. And so today is National Financial Awareness Day. Make sure you do not run credit card bills up. It's a bad time to be doing that. It's Pakistan Independence Day. Anniversary of the recovery. Ode Adab. Falklands Day, Love Your Bookshop Day. Well, everybody should love their bookshop. National Creamsicle Day. I just don't like creamsicles. I would prefer either orange or vanilla. I don't like them together. Maybe I'm weird. National Spirit of 45 Day. National Tattoo Removal Day. Navajo Code Talkers Day. Premica Day. Vigil of Assumptions Day, World Lizard Day. There you go, Brenda. A day for you, World Lizard Day. Let's see here. Let's go to this one over here and see what we got. See if there's anything different. And we'll see what birthdays are today. Let's see. We talked about all those. So let's see what birthdays are today. Notable birthdays. Doc Holliday, we talked about him. Ernest Thompson Seton. He was one of the founding pioneers of the Boy Scouts. Ernest Thayer, he's a poet who wrote the famous baseball poem Casey at Bat. So who's on first? No, never mind. Ernest Everett Just, he's a black embryologist who pioneered the study of fertilization and cell division. John Ringling North, circus director and co-founder of Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus. David Crosby, the member of the folk rock band The Byrds and later founding member of the bands Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Oh, I have a very sad memory about that band. Steve Martin, he's still living. He's an actor, comedian, producer, and screenwriter. Gary Larson, he's a cartoonist. You may remember him as the one who created The Far Side. James Horner, he's a award-winning film score composer. Magic Johnson, NBA player. Susan Olsen, actress widely known as Cindy in the Brady Bunch. Halle Berry, well, she's been in Monster Ball, Perfect Stranger, X-Men, and to name a few. And memorable events, 1820, the first eye hospital opens in New York City. President Lincoln receives the first group of Black Americans to ever meet with a U.S. president. We talked about the Indianapolis Speedway holding its first motorized competition day, motorcycles. And in 1935, President Roosevelt signs the Social Security Act. We talked about the Japan Empire surrendering, and the American Football League is founded. The first lunar orbiter begins orbiting the Earth in 1966. And Congress authorizes U.S. citizens to own gold in 1974. Didn't know that. I thought you could always have that. What is Brenda was, I don't know. It is Thursday. I wish it was Friday, but yeah. Yeah, it is not. All right. So we'll start off with an article from Breitbart. New York libs eating breast milk flavored ice cream. What flavor is breast milk? I don't know. On Wednesday, Alex Marlow's show hosts Breitbart editor-in-chief Alex Marlow, and they talked about breast flavored ice cream. Marlow stated, why would that be something the left would do? Maybe it's that they're all infantilized. I think they'd be much more adventurous in that regard. Apparently, the show, the Alex Barlow Show, is hosted by Breitbart editor-in-chief in his weekday show. Well, you don't want to listen to them. You want to come over here and listen to me. Why would anybody? I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I don't think I'd like that. Let's see. All right. For any of my Bigfoot loving people, this is an interesting article. It comes to us from the Science Alert. Ancient teeth suggest our ancestors lived side by side with a mysterious hominid. The human family is looking more and more like an unruly bush. Paleontologists have uncovered the teeth of two different ancient human lineages at the same site in northeastern Ethiopia. The discovery collapses the distance between the first of our genus and the last of the Australopithecines in eastern Africa. The two probably coexisted. The new research shows that the image many of us have in our minds of an ape to a Neanderthal to a modern human is not correct. Evolution does not work like that, says paleontologist Kay Reed from the Arizona University. Human evolution is not linear, it's a bushy tree. There are life forms that go extinct. The Australopithecus genus, to which the famous Lucy belongs, existed long before Neanderthals are our ancestors. It was one of the earliest hominins to habitually walk upright. These new findings suggest that the lineage existed in eastern Africa right as our genus was evolving more than 2.5 million years ago. Perhaps we shared lands, or maybe we fought over resources. Who knows how closely we lived or how often we crossed paths. The two lineages seem to have evolved side by side for hundreds of thousands of years. The remarkable discovery was made at a site called Lidi Jeru, where scientists previously found the earliest evidence of the Homo genius, a jawbone dating back 2.78 million years. Hidden nearby, paleontologists have stumbled upon the teeth of another Homo species dating back 2.59 million years, as well as the teeth of a Australopithecine, I'm probably butchering that, from 2.63 million years ago. The only definitive evidence of the ape-like genus in eastern Africa at this time. Lucy was also found in Ethiopia, and her species may be the lineage from which our Homo ancestors branch, but just as our ancestors pop up in eastern Africa, the fossil evidence for runs cold. The newly uncovered teeth now put our ancestors closer in time and space than ever before. And scientists have yet to determine the exact species to which the teeth belong, but the latter don't match much with Lucy or the others of her kind. Much seems to have changed in 500,000 years. We know what teeth in the mandible of the earliest Homo look like, but that's it, lead author and paleontologist Brian Vilmore for the University of Nevada stated. This emphasis is the critical importance of finding additional fossils to understanding the difference between Australopithecus, and Homo, potentially how they were able to overlap in the fossil record at the time and location. Scientists previously suspected that both of these early human lineages overlapped, but now that evidence doesn't exist. Until now, that evidence didn't exist. The ancient teeth found fill a sizable gap in the fossil record between 2.5 and 3 million years ago. All right, so is Bigfoot just another offspring of us? Good question. All right, let's see here. Let me catch up with the chat. Breasts can be visually pleasing, but I draw the line at frozen dessert production. Yeah, I'm with you. Plus, there's probably laws about that, and not to mention, well, I mean, I guess it would be natural. I don't know. Just no. All right, this story comes to us from Scallywag and Vagabond. A man dies after getting bit by rattlesnake he picked up during a hike. Okay. Hunter dies after rattlesnake bite at Savage Gulf State Park, Grundy County, Tennessee, after picking up the venomous snake. Cause of death described as a fatal allergic reaction to snake poison. You think? A man hiking has died after picking up the rattlesnake, and rescue crews were called to the trailhead on 55th Avenue at about 12:30 August 8th. The Grundy County EMA reports. When they found the hiker, they immediately started CPR until he was hooked up to a mobile CPR machine, then rushed to a hospital where he later died from an allergic reaction to the snake venom. Well, what are the odds of dying from a rattlesnake bite? Grundy is about 2 hours southeast of Nashville on Interstate 24, and speaking with witnesses, medical personnel learned that the man was bitten on the hand after he picked up the snake. His body most likely had an allergic reaction to the rattler's venom, which led to his death. Well, it is strongly recommended to have some kind of first aid kit while enjoying outdoor recreational activities. Be mindful of the wildlife and the dangers they may pose. The CDC in prevention estimates 7,000 to 8,000 people across the country are bitten by venomous snakes annually. About 5 of those victims die. We know somebody that was bit by a snake, don't we? What do you do if you're bitten by a rattlesnake? Well, hikers who suffer a bite should keep their bitten limb elevated if possible, call for help, and make their way to a hospital where they can receive anti-venom. If bitten by venomous snakes, victims are advised to call 911 immediately, especially if the bitten area changes colors, swells, or is painful, according to the Mayo Clinic. While waiting for help, they recommend move far away from the snake. Yeah. Stay calm. Remove any jewelry, watches, tight clothing before the swelling starts. Sit or lie down so the bite is in a neutral, comfortable position. Clean the bite with soap and water. Cover and wrap it loosely with a clean, dry bandage. How common are rattlesnakes in Tennessee? Well, it's home to 2 varieties of rattlesnake, the timber rattler and the pygmy rattler are both common here. Tennessee's other venomous snakes include the copperhead and cottonmouth. Timber rattlers are the largest and most dangerous of the 4 venomous snakes in the state, according to the TWRA. The heavy-bodied snake has a large triangular head, vertical pupils, and a rattle. Their body can vary in color from tan to brown to gray and black. Most snake bites occur when a rattlesnake is handled or accidentally touched by someone walking or climbing. The snake that bit the hiker was likely a timber rattler. Their habitats include mature, heavily wooded forests, rocky hillsides, bluffs, or ledges, according to the Wildlife Agency. Timber rattler snakes bites are rare, according to the Smithsonian National Zoo and Conservation Biology Institute. Though it may strike if necessary, the timber rattlesnake is more docile than other members of its family and more likely to stay coiled and stretched out, motionless when encountered in the wild. According to a post on the Institute's website, like other vipers, the timber rattler is venomous, with venom potent enough to kill a human. A timber rattlesnake bite is a true medical emergency. All right, there you have it. So, don't pick anything up that you see out in the wild that looks dangerous. There you go. And if you have any questions, Brenda can give you plenty of advice. So get naked and lay down. Is that what you did, Brenda? So, and Chris says, I love how they list that move far away from the snake. It's almost as if they assume stupid enough people to pick it up rattlesnake need to hear that. I don't know. Maybe they were eating breast milk ice cream and saw the snake and said, oh, pretty snake. I don't know. Why would you do that? It's like you hear the stories of the people coming out of the Smoky Mountains that have picked up coyotes and foxes thinking that they were stray animals that were struck by cars. That happens several times a year. Just leave wildlife out where it belongs, in the wild. All right, we'll continue with some more wildlife. We have monster jellyfish. France's largest nuclear plant was brought to a halt by jellyfish. A plant in northern France hit by jellyfish invasion is just now getting back online, with service restored to the first of 4 closed reactors. Good Lord. The Graves Lines facility near Dunkirk on the French coast is the largest plant in Western Europe, with a 900 megawatt reactor. 4 of its reactors were shut down on Sunday and Monday after a swarm of jellyfish clogged up cooling pumps. Reactor number 6 restarted at 7:30 a.m. local time, and then they are working, adding that the work was still going on to bring the 3 other reactors back online in the coming days. The other 2 units are offline for maintenance. Convenient. The incident had not affected the safety of the facility's personnel or the environment, according to the operator. Well, it's easy for them to say. They're not the poor jellyfish. The plant was disrupted by jellyfish once before in the 1990s. The creatures have caused plants to close in the past in the United States, Sweden, and Japan. Experts say overfishing, plastic pollution, and climate change have created conditions allowing jellyfish to thrive and reproduce. Nuclear power plants account for 3/5 of the electricity in France, and the country boasts one of the globe's largest nuclear power plant programs. They have 18 plants with 57 reactors. So there you go. Jellyfish have shut down France's nuclear power. Interesting. All right. So, of course, climate change is responsible. They said it was plastic, Brenda. Come on, let's get the story right. Demon bunnies with horns in Colorado have sparked a frenzy. Oh my gosh, I have seen this all over the prepper and survival things, that this is Satan that is manifesting as a bunny. Experts believe the Frankenstein cottontails, covered in wart-like horn growths, are where the legend of the jackalope come from. Quite possible. A group of rabbits with grotesque horn-like growths has been terrorizing Colorado, but scientists think they've figured out what's happening. The demon bunnies look like something straight out of a horror movie, but experts think they've got a relatively common virus. The cottontails spotted at Fort Collins are infected with a mostly harmless Shope papillomavirus, don't ask me to pronounce that again, which cause wart-like growths that protrude from their faces, resembling horns. Viral photos have inspired a collection of unflattering nicknames, including Frankenstein bunny, demon rabbits, and zombie rabbits. But their condition is nothing new, with the virus inspiring ancient folklore and driving scientific research nearly 100 years ago. So the virus likely influenced the centuries-old jackalope myth in North America, which told of a rabbit with antlers or horns, among other natural animal variations. The disease in rabbits also contributed to scientists' knowledge about the connection between viruses and cancer, such as the human papillomavirus that causes cervical cancer. The virus in rabbits was named after Dr. Richard Shope, a professor at the Rockefeller University, whose discovery of the cottontails in the 1930s. News about the rabbit sightings in Fort Collins, 65 miles north of Denver, started getting attention after residents spotting them around town and posting pictures. A representative for Colorado Parks and Wildlife said the department has been receiving calls about the rabbits spotted in Fort Collins. She clarified that it's not unusual to see infected rabbits, particularly during the summer when fleas and ticks that transmit the virus are active. She explains that the virus can spread from rabbit to rabbit, but not to other species, including humans and pets. She described the growths as resembling warts, but they appear like horns if they grow longer. She reassured that these growths don't harm rabbits unless they develop on their eyes, mouths, or interfere with eating. She added the rabbits' immune systems are capable of combating the virus, and once they do, the growths will vanish. There you go. So if you see a horned rabbit, Don't touch it. Solid advice there. Don't touch it. All right. We're going to go on. We've talked about the Cincinnati thing ad nauseum, but, well, it's back up. Cincinnati beating suspect faces years in prison after a new charge from the DOJ. A man charged over the July 26th mob attack in Cincinnati now faces up to 15 years in prison after being hit by the feds with a gun charge. The Justice Department announced Wednesday that 34-year-old Montez Merriweather had been indicted for illegally possessing a firearm as a previously convicted felon. He had previously been arrested over the beating of a man and woman, and that was caught on the viral video. There is no place for violence in our communities, said U.S. Attorney Dominic Jarris II. Those who commit violence acts can expect to be scrutinized. They will be held accountable for violations of federal criminal law. Merriweather faces local assault, felonious assault, aggravated riot. He faces almost 30 years in prisons on these charges. Violence in any form or under any circumstances has no place in civilized society. When we warranted the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives in close coordination with our law enforcement partners, we will employ the full extent of our legal authority and resources to identify, apprehend, and remove violent offenders from communities, said ATF Special Agent Thomas Greco. Video of the attack shows a white man being thrown to the ground and kicked and punched by a group of black people outside a music festival. After the beaten man got up, a white woman was punched in the face and appeared to be knocked unconscious. The video quickly circulated online, prompting condemnations from state and local leaders. In response, the FBI launched an investigation into the incident. Attorney General Pam Bondi's direction, that came after Vice President J.D. Vance condemned the attack and urged the perpetrators to be thrown in prison. What I saw, and I haven't seen the full context, but what I saw is a mob of lawless thugs beating up an innocent person, and it's disgusting, Vance said. And I hope every single one of these people who engaged in violence is prosecuted to the full extent of the law, and they will be. They will be so as long as law enforcement in the state of Ohio takes their job seriously. Some Cincinnati officials have accused the victims of instigating the beating. For example, City Council President Pro Tem Victoria Parks wrote on a Facebook post, "The victims begged for that beatdown. I am grateful for the whole story." She still stands by that, by the way. Well, Brenda, it's been a big thing. So why have you never heard of it? Well, the reason you haven't heard of it is because you haven't watched my show recently, because I did a whole thing about it. I, in fact, told white people to stay out of Cincinnati or they would be beat down. That woman bruised that poor man's fist. They should be jailed for being such a willing target. Yes, Chris agreed. So Anna Paulina Luna tells the Joe Rogan show about her UFO experience in the Air Force. Interesting. During an interview with Joe Rogan on his Joe Rogan Experience podcast on Wednesday, U.S. Representative Anna Paulina Luna recounted her experience with an unidentified flying object while serving in the Air Force. Well, she has been among lawmakers calling for greater transparency from the federal government, including on UFO investigations. Questions about UFOs have captivated the American public for decades. While many people associate UFOs with aliens, the government has generally focused on whether the object are from U.S. adversaries and pose a national security risk in its investigations. The government has never confirmed the existence of extraterrestrial life, but theories about the possibility of life outside the planet endure. A poll from September 2024 found that the majority of Americans, 53%, believe aliens definitely or probably exist. The poll surveyed 1,135 adults from September 17th to September 20th of 2024, and there's a plus or minus margin error of 3.9%. There you go for transparency. On the podcast, Luna told Rogan that her time at the Portland Air National Guard, where she worked as a airfield manager, she encountered an unidentified anomalous phenomenon, UAP. In an effort to describe a broader range of it, unexplained sightings, the U.S. government shifted the term UAP instead of UFO because, well, you know why. They needed to write more books. Luna said an airspace incursion occurred one day while she was working, but when she asked the pilot for more information, she said they were told not to talk about it. No one really wanted to address it, and so from what I gathered, it had likely been a UAP. So that was my perspective. She did not look at it with a crazy lens of perspective because she believes you never know we're the only ones out there. Well, we aren't the only ones out there. Rogan asked why she did not assume it could have been another country's military craft. She said the way the pilot discussed it made her believe otherwise. He didn't want to, from what I gather, taken off flight status, and he was like, I really can't discuss it. We couldn't identify it essentially, and it outperformed them. The Florida Republican leads a House Oversight Committee on Disclosure, which focuses on government transparency from matters of UFO to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. She said the task force was formed after pilots at Eglin Air Force Base came forward to accuse the Air Force of covering up instances of UAPs. The panel's investigations have indicated there is technology out there that would rival what we know currently with physics, and the U.S. does not have the ability to reproduce it. She said based on photos that she's seen, she's confident there's things out there that have not been created by mankind. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that because, well, this comes to us from the Daily Star, and I am not saying that this is real. I'm not saying it's fake. I don't know. So let's see. She's in the government and wants more transparency. I've been born on Wednesday, but it wasn't yesterday. Yeah, exactly. She's there. All right. So this comes to us from the Daily Star. I don't know if it's a legitimate site or not, but it keeps popping up, so I thought I'd bring it out. Let's see. So this gentleman has given final verdict on suspected life in universe and claims the government already has the knowledge. Physicist Eric Davis, who has previously worked on highly secret Pentagon missions, has identified 4 types of aliens which he claims already live in the universe. A hearing at Capitol Hill ignited conversation around unidentified aerial phenomena and the potential for extraterrestrial contact. During the hearing, Davis said there are, quote, 4 types of aliens which could work as operators of unidentified crafts. The identification of these aliens are listed as, his words, Greys, Nordics, insectoids, and reptilians. These species all of distinctive looks, which set them apart from each other. Greys in particular have a widely accepted account for the following abduction case of Betty and Barney Hill in 1961. They were driving from Montreal to Portsmouth for their honeymoon, noticed a bright light appeared to be following them before they were abducted. According to them, they were asked to remove their clothes before aliens plucked their hairs, took clippings of their toenails, and peeled off parts of their skin. Their account describes the alien as small creatures with smooth gray skin, large black eyes, no noses or ears. On the other hand, Nordics resemble strong Scandinavian humans with light skin, blue eyes, and bright blonde hair. As far as insectoids, well, the clue comes from its name. They are said to have strange insect-like features such as multiple arms and legs, skeletons on the outside of their bodies, and even antennae. As for the reptilians, this was popularized by the conspiracy theorist David Icke and paints the aliens as shape-shifting reptiles. U.S. politician Eric Burleson said he previously had heard these classifications while speaking on the Endless Void podcast with Christian Fisher. He said, I've heard of these 4 classifications discussed in meetings in this office by others, But what I wasn't expecting for him to say, I wasn't expecting Eric Davis, a respected scientist, to say that. But he remains skeptical of his claims, added, if true, this would be a paradigm shift movement. But if it is true, the government has no right to keep such a secret from the public it serves. I don't know. What do you think, guys and gals? I don't know. We seem to be getting a lot of UFO stories with the Atlas 31 quickly approaching our planet. So I assume this is going to continue till there's people out in fields naked holding up signs, take me now. Just a guess. All right, this comes to us from the Smoking Gun. They always give us at least one humorous one every week. Chris says, so even in space, aliens, everyone gets groped and labeled by skin color. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Not groped, grouped. So even in alien species, everyone gets grouped and labeled by skin color. See, there you go. The Nordics, well, they're probably the most advanced, and I don't know. All right, so felony charges, sticks and glue containment. A Wisconsin woman yesterday pleaded guilty to containing a. Oh Lord. Let's start this all over again so I can read it. Felony charges stick and glue contamination, not containment. A Wisconsin man yesterday pled guilty to contaminating a female coworker's Coca-Cola with drops of Gorilla Glue, a crime that was caught on video after the victim hid a surveillance camera under her desk. During a circuit court hearing, Joseph Ralph Ross, he's 35, he copped to a felony charge of placing foreign objects in edibles. The Milwaukee resident, whose admission came after plea negotiations with prosecutors, is scheduled to be sentenced October 9th. Ross and the 36-year-old victim shared an office at the Wisconsin Exposition Center, a state-owned exhibit hall in West Allis, in Milwaukee suburbs. As detailed in a criminal complaint, the woman told police that she suspected the beverage on her desk had been contaminated by a chemical substance. Earlier this year, the victim reported becoming ill after consuming the adulterated liquid, which appeared, she described, as having a strong chemical smell and taste. Why, spit it out. Due to past events, investigators noted on March 20th, the woman hid a camera below her computer monitor to see if anyone was putting substances into her beverage. Within 30 minutes, the camera recorded Ross wearing latex gloves, squeezing Gorilla Glue into the victim's can of Coca-Cola. When subsequently confronted by cops, Ross, who was unaware of the hidden camera, claimed to have placed a supplement in the victim's Coke. Police searched a trash container near Ross's office, and it yielded protective gloves, which were wadded up into a ball with a glue bottle and its cap inside. As part of his plea to the felony charges, he may never own or possess a firearm and will be unable to vote until his civil rights have been restored, according to a court order. But is he going to be allowed to own glue? His hair looks like he was a different type of wigs together. Yeah, he's got certainly even bangs over his big bald spot. So yeah, it's a bowl cut, isn't it? We're not making fun of people. No. All right, this comes to us from the U.S. Sun. Going postal. Sick pictures of USPS worker, the Postal Service, flaunting cash in luxury vacations online after stealing checks, debit, and credit cards from the mail. Well then. Smug pictures of a former postal worker showing off stacks of cash and lavish trips have emerged after she was caught stealing. Margaret Ann McDermott, 31, admitted to pocketing credit cards, debit cards, and checks on the job to fuel her lifestyle, which included tropical vacations and Rolex watches she flaunted online. Magademinit, that's kind of pleasing to say, pled guilty to stealing mail containing checks, credit and debit cards, and personal information while working for the Postal Service. Picture posted to Magadamit's former Instagram shows her sitting poolside with a glass of champagne. And she's posted pictures of shopping bags from Dior and Louis Vuitton before she was caught. Magadamit pled guilty to the fraud on Monday after she was first arrested on July 1st. Her sick scheme lasted 3 years as she worked at the Torrance, Maine post office in southwestern Los Angeles. The former mail courier stole mail containing checks, debit and credit cards, and personal information while working at the post office from 2022 to July of 2025. She would activate the cards and cash online and use them to make massive purchases. On her Instagram account, Magadaminit proudly showed off the stolen money in pictures showing and posing with stacks of $100 bills held up to her face. She shared pictures of piles of money sitting in her lap while sitting in the driver's seat of her car. Magadaminit flaunted dollar bills and $100. Look at all that stack of money. Good Lord. One snap shared on her Instagram showed a tall stack of bills that was captured. You ever been hurting while grinding? Magadaminit wasn't shy about flaunting the expensive items she bought with money she stole from unknowing USPS customers, including a Rolex watch and designer items from Louis Vuitton and Dior. The mail thief also shared pictures from glamorous vacations to the Turks and Caicos, Hawaiian, and Aruba Islands, where she used stolen cards on her international trips. One photo showed her lounging by a pool with a glass of champagne as she wrote, "Life is good." Magadaminit, who is from the Philippines, also sold stolen cards to other people who allegedly helped her cash stolen checks by making fake IDs. Federally insured banks and credit unions were victimized in the scheme, the DOJ said. None of Magadaminit's alleged co-conspirators have been arrested, according to the DOJ. Police caught on to the plot and searched Magadaminit's apartment in December of 24, seized 133 stolen credit and debit cards, as well as 16 U.S. Department of Treasury checks from her home, and they found a loaded ghost gun. Despite the damning discoveries, Magadaminit wasn't arrested until July, when they found out she was still buying things with the victim's stolen cards. They raided her apartment again and found more stolen cards. She's been in federal custody since then. The Torrance Police Department didn't immediately return the U.S. Sun's request for comment. On Monday, Magadaminit, I like that name, pled guilty to one count of conspiracy to commit bank fraud. Her sentence hearing is for October 27th. She faces 30 years in the federal pen. You know what I'm thinking? She probably wouldn't have got caught if she hadn't been so stupid. Well, luckily, crooks are stupid. So there you go. Word of the day is Magadaminit. Yes. Magadaminit. Could that be a good porn name? I'm John Magadaminit. Oh, I don't know. So my chat is having fun with it. Let's see. Can we do this story every day, please? Magadaminit needs her own day. She needs her own day so we can talk about it. All right, so this has been making the rounds on the prepper, survival, and emergency shows on YouTube and podcasts across Spotify because the Pentagon draws up plans to send troops to American cities. The Trump administration is considering plans for a, quote, reaction force of National Guard troops to deploy quickly to American cities with signs of civil unrest. The Trump administration, which on Monday deployed the D.C. National Guard to address crime in the nation's capital, is reportedly gearing up to deploy more troops in American cities. Pentagon's plans leaked to the Washington Post detailed plans by the Trump administration, time-stamped in late July and early August for a, quote, domestic civil disturbance quick reaction force, 600 troop National Guard units. These National Guard units, 2 300 Guard groups, stationed at bases in Alabama and Arizona, would be ready to deploy within an hour to U.S. cities facing protests or other unrest. The quick reaction teams would be on task for 90 days to, quote, limit burnout, according to the Post. The plan involves rotating Army and Air Force National Guard units from several states, including Maryland, New Mexico, Nebraska, and Tennessee. Cost projections indicate that the mission could amount to hundreds of millions of dollars. However, the earliest that the program could be funded through the Pentagon's budget is fiscal year 2027. The Post report also mentions that it is currently uncertain whether the proposal has been presented to SecDef Hegseth. National Guard Bureau referred Reason to the DoD for comment. In response to Reason, the DoD official stated, the Department of Defense is a planning organization and routinely reviews how the department would respond to a variety of contingencies across the globe. We will not discuss these plans through leaked documents, pre-decisional or otherwise. Titles 10 and 32 of U.S. Code give the U.S. President authority to mobilize National Guards for federal missions. Title 10 allows forces to support law enforcement without performing arrests or investigations. Under Title 32, the state or territory governor retains the control of the National Guard. However, their duties are federally funded and regulated, which provides guardsmen with more latitude in law enforcement missions. The proposal leaked to the Post would allow the president to mobilize the National Guard under Title 32 in states experiencing, quote, civil unrest, but acknowledges the potential for political friction should the state's governor refuse to work with the Pentagon. Laura Dixon, law professor at GW, tells Reason there's a strong legal argument that couldn't, in this statute, be sent to a state without consent of the state's governor. In response to the president's actions in Washington, D.C., Maryland Democrat Governor Wes Moore has already said that he would not authorize National Guard forces in Maryland. This proposal fits into a larger pattern that we're seeing in which the administration is seeking to use National Guard in the military to perform direct law enforcement functions or to act in support of law enforcement when there doesn't seem to be a real emergency or crisis. The new Pentagon plan mirrors an effort by Trump to utilize the National Guard to quell political unrest. For the 2020 election, the administration had 600 Guard troops prepared in Arizona and Alabama in anticipation of political violence. And this is Donald Trump's attempt to create his own de facto he wants his own guard. According to one author, it's worth reflecting that such actions by the British Crown are what started the American Revolution. These acts by the Trump regime have nothing to do with crime and everything to do with armed, coercive political intimidation and repression. The state of California is currently suing the Trump administration for deploying 700 Marines and 4,000 of the state's National Guard to the city of Los Angeles amid protests over immigration raids taking place in the city in June. And the Trump administration has openly and unconventionally deployed federal law enforcement and the military to achieve its objective. While it's unclear if or when this will happen, the Pentagon's plan, if implemented, would be yet another encroachment on federalism from the Trump administration. There you go. What do you guys think? I think a lot of the shows online are going nuts with it. So let me catch up in comments here. Glenn needs to record himself saying the name so we can hear it when necessary. Well, I can make a sound file. Instead of damn it, let's say mega damn it. I don't know. But this story has to be furious. It got hold on here. This story has to be furious. It got put right out after Mary Magadaminit. There was no way anyone could follow that. It's hard to follow Magadaminit. That's right. People need to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe over here. so we can talk about the Magadaminate movement. Brenda tells California to shut up and stop whining. Yeah, maybe. If only Magadaminate would listen. Let's see, make sure I don't got anything over here that's pressing. Somebody want me to share something. All right. Manager of DC store trashed by teens says Trump gives him hope. Not long after 40 teenagers trashed a convenience store, Ibran Hassan manages the Heckinger Mall in Northeast. On Friday night, he told the owners of the 24/7 Best Tobacco and Wireless that he no longer wants to work there because he doesn't feel safe. Almost everyone could understand why Hussein, 28, who has been an employee at the store for less than 3 months, would feel that way after spending Friday night trapped inside the store along with the 2 other coworkers. Along with wrecking the store and throwing things on the floor, so they stole cans of Red Bull, chocolates, and Slim Jims. He believes thousands of dollars of merchandise were taken. Once a teen left the store, they said they started throwing rocks and bricks at the window. This is like 3.5 miles from the White House, and it's not safe here. I called the police. They took 45 minutes to respond. Not only does he not feel safe at work, he said where he lives near the store is not safe because people have been shooting at his home with 2 bullets inside. But there's no crime in DC. Remember that. All right. Let's see. So what the heck just happened there? I don't know what the heck happened there. Let me go back and fix that because I did what I wanted. I mean, she's cute, but she's no Magadaminate. All right. How an Alaskan military base is preparing for the Trump-Putin meeting. All right. I'm going to make sure I ain't got anything over here pressing in the comments. No. Yes, I'll share it later. Go away. All right. So the Alaskan military base, long used to intercept Russian aircraft, is now racing to welcome one instead. President Trump will host Vladimir Putin for an unprecedented summit at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, just north of Anchorage, according to a White House official. The Joint Air Force Base, which totally supports F-22 Raptors, has historically been used to counter the Soviet Union and launch intercepts of Russian and Chinese aircraft. The installation has hosted numerous presidential visits over the decades, but has never welcomed a U.S. adversary of Putin's stature. This begs the question about the logistics of securing the site and the optics of the summit. Base officials declined to answer any of them, deferred questions about preparations for the visit to the White House, and the White House has declined to provide any information, citing operational security. While the optics of the situation may be ironic, former Air Force officials said that with appropriate precautions, the base is well suited to host the event. It's a large base, and the conversation likely won't happen near secure areas used for sensitive operations, said David Nahorn, who retired last year as the commander of Alaskan NORAD region, Alaskan Command in the 11th Air Force since 2022. We've always had visitors on the base from different countries, and obviously not necessarily a Russian citizen, but we've always been very mindful of that. My guess is these conversations are not going to happen in areas that are required for the mission or would have any security concerns. The base has had to cordon off sensitive areas many times, and there are plenty of ways to still get the mission done, he said. While the exact procedures are closely held, military bases follow tight protocols to prevent espionage during visits from heads of states, including protections from cyber breaches and preventing physical access to classified areas. Questions remain over the exact makeup of Putin's entourage. The Russian president rarely travels within his own country without being accompanied by fighter jets. A detailed agreement on what is being brought and where it will be positioned is likely hammered out of the joint staff level. As for the makeup of the Russian aircraft flying in or entering the U.S. airspace, landing at Elmendorf Field, as this visit is unprecedented. They're really unsure of what will be allowed and how this will look. Ravi Chandri, a former assistant Air Force secretary for installations, echoed confidence the base will be able to deliver a secure environment, but expressed concerns over this administration's, quote, problems with security protocols. I know they are rapidly preparing and they have the capabilities in place to make sure that we pull out all stops to ensure a successful meeting, which all of us hope for. Yet when you take into account the administration's past proclivity on security protocols and add strategic importance of JBER, it's got me wondering if this is such a good idea. The summit's agenda is expected to focus on the war in Ukraine, but no one from Ukraine is expected to be invited. Ukrainians and European leaders worry that Russia will win undue concessions. The White House has lately characterized the meeting as a listening exercise that could later pave the way for a meeting with Putin and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, lowering expectations from previous statements that a peace deal is imminent. I believe he is already on the way over there. This comes to us from MSN. The Doomsday Radio has sparked mystery before the summit. Let's see, I can catch up in the comments here. Chris says the 24/7 best tobacco and wireless is a pretty bold statement to make about your business, setting yourself up for failure, right? Trump would say many businesses have claimed to be the best in tobacco, but nobody has ever seen a business as dominant in tobacco and wireless. It's really unprecedented. It has never been seen before. Brenda says they will shut the base down. It's what they do here. Well, there's a lot of things they're doing. Russia's Doomsday Radio, a lonely, rusted radio station in a forest north of Moscow, has woken up. UVB-76, also known as the buzzer, was used during the height of the Cold War by the KGB for decades. It's been sputtering bizarre beeps and cryptic gobbledygook. The shortwave stations broadcast the word Skolishab, Droshost, Kenar, Roshilny, Delifshis, yesterday. I don't know if that was right, but I don't know. YouTube, I'm just reading an article. Don't come at me. The stations that monitor the account also bleeped a series of numbers. The transmission lasted 1 minute and 12 seconds. Telegram channel Militaire said the message was similar to one broadcast in the first 10 days of 2022, just before Russia launched its war against Ukraine. It comes days ahead of the president visit with Vladimir Putin in Alaska. In a rambling news conference on Monday, Trump said he planned to hash out with the Russian president land swaps in a bid to end the Ukraine war. I see, listen to this. This is a quote. I'm going to Russia on Friday, he told reporters. Alaska has not been a part of Russia since 1897. UVB-76 in a military zone classified as Pavaron, goes by many names. For at least the last decade leading up to 1992, it broadcast almost nothing but beeps before switching to buzzes, about 34 per minute, which earned it the nickname the buzzer. It sporadically emits garbled audio messages, which tend to peak around 1 p.m., which can include Russian names. In 2001, the station broadcast, I am 143, not receiving the generator oscillator. That stuff came from the hardware room. Crackly French conversations have also been signals, as have popular songs like Gangnam Style by K-pop star Psy. Observers say these strange words likely covert military orders, such as the Kremlin, to push the dead man's switch to trigger nuclear attacks. This has given monotone outposts the nicknames of Dead Hand Radio or Judgment Day Radio, but officials have never disclosed what the radio's purpose exactly is. Russian censors love telecommunicators regularly. Only only publicly acknowledged its existence in June. They are censor-loving telecommunicators. There you go. The agency told RT, Russian Times, that information about the user of the radio frequency spectrum is not publicly available. All right, so that's had the prepper world going crazy. Doomsday frequency activated. Prepare now. We're all going to die. Yeah. I've heard that before. And gobbledygook. Well, they should transmit Magadaminate. And Magadaminate could bring about peace between Russia and Ukraine if she spread around some of that cash. Exactly. Everybody likes a little Magadaminate, right? Oh, unfortunately, this story comes from Virginia, my old home, and actually my old county public school system. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, I don't know how you pronounce it, on Wednesday ordered the Virginia State Police Bureau of Criminal Investigations to open an investigation into allegations that Fairfax County Public Schools arranged and paid for abortions for a minor using school funds without parental consent. I'm deeply concerned with the allegations that Fairfax County public school officials arrange for minors to get abortions without consent and may have misused public funds to pay for them. The governor, a Republican, said in a statement, according to the Washington Examiner, I'm directing the Virginia State Police to open a full criminal investigation immediately. There you go. So, old public school systems being investigated. Shocker. All right, let's jump in here to what we normally do. We'll go to the FEMA Daily Report. It's no longer MAGA, it is now Magadaminate. Oh, y'all aren't going to let me live this down, are you? I'm okay with that. All right, so this comes to us from FEMA, the Daily Operations Briefing, Thursday, August 14th, which last I checked is today, and as presented to the presidential staff at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. All right, so national significant incidents and ongoing operations. Well, Glacier Lake outburst flood. That's in Alaska, where the president is, or he's going. Tropical storm Erin, and they're monitoring heavy rain flash flooding in the southeast mid-Atlantic. Of course, we still have critical fire weather in the Great Basin and Central Rockies. And we now have the tropical activity in the Atlantic with Erin and one disturbance. No new declarations and no new significant events. The Glacier Lake outburst flood from Juneau, Alaska. This is the final report. Mendenhall Lake crested at 16.65 feet, reaching major flood stage yesterday and quickly began to recede. Water levels are well below flood stage and continue to fall and continue to decrease from the flood action stage. And impacts are relatively limited, and a temporary flood barrier system provided protection. There are no requests for FEMA assistance at this time. All right, so that's good news. It apparently is going to rectify itself. They did get help from other resources outside the state. Tropical storm Erin. Here we go. It is located 990 miles north of the Leeward Islands with a maximum sustained wind of 50 miles an hour. It is moving west at 17 miles an hour and is forecast to become a hurricane by Friday, with significant intensification possible on Friday or Saturday towards a major hurricane. The center of the storm is likely to move just north of the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico over the weekend. Local heavy rainfall, high surf and rip currents, and tropical force winds impacts errands could occur for portions of Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands this weekend, most likely beginning Saturday night. In anticipation of impacts, FEMA headquarters in FEMA Region 2 will continue to monitor and begin preparations to support response to any storm landfall. So the current state and local resources that they're activating and using are from the Puerto Rico Emergency Management Bureau, The Virgin Islands Territorial Emergency Management Agency is monitoring, and they will go to full activation on Friday. And so the federal response is regional at this time, and they are monitoring it. The Red Incident Support Team will arrive in San Juan today. Okay. Mobile communications offices pre-positioned in Puerto Rico, and a Maynard mobile emergency response vehicle rostered and is available to support. They have 35 generators staged at a ballpark staging site in Puerto Rico, and will deploy and manage generators as needed. 12 generators to St. Croix, 9 generators to St. Thomas. National Incident Support Base Alpha is deploying to accept generators. There you go. All right, so we talked about her. She's 990 miles east of the Northwest Leeward Islands, moving at 17 miles an hour, maximum sustained winds 50, and she's going to strengthen, and, well, she's going to become a pain in the ass later this week and over the weekend. All right, so we'll actually go to the National Hurricane Center and get a more recent update. What is it saying in the chat? MAGA equals Mary Ann got arrested. What was her first name? I don't even remember now. Magadaminate. All right, so the national forecast from the National Weather Service. Oh, our friends up in the North Dakota and Minnesota region are going to get hammered with some severe thunderstorms today. Can't rule out tornadic activity. And rain can occur from Vermont to Florida over to Texas sporadically, with storms moving through. But along the coastline from the Chesapeake Bay down to the Carolinas could be heavy with flooding possible. Maybe even some extreme storms. On Friday, the storms are expected up in the northwest to move slightly to the northeast, but still anticipate some heavy storms in the Dakotas and Minnesota. That trend is going to continue for Saturday, but it's going to continue to move northeast, affecting the Great Lakes, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Minnesota, Michigan, and Wisconsin. There we go. With some heavy rain and thunderstorms over Friday and Saturday. As for the fire weather, well, if you live out west of the Rockies, guess what? There's a lot of critical fire weather right now in Idaho, down to the Four Corners region, back over to Arizona, Southern California, New Mexico. The whole area there is got critical fire weather for the next 2 days. So please be weather aware and be prepared to run if needed to get to a safe space. All right, so heavy rains, we've talked about them up in the Dakotas, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota. And then if you go a little bit south of there, following the Mississippi bilaterally, well, severe and hazardous heat on both sides, extending down into the southeast, covering both Texas and Florida. So there's predicted high heat. National fire activity as of August 14th. New large fires, 8. Large fires contained, 0. Uncontained large fires, 36. Year to date, burned acres, 3,655,341. Total responders, 16,530. And they talk about complex IMTs deployed, and that's actual teams that are going in. Some of them actually skydiving in. So, they still don't mention. They talk about the Utah fire and the Colorado fires. One of which, the Lee fire, is 4% contained. Elk fire is 75, and the Oak fire is 47. But we still don't talk about the wildfires in California. That surprises me. Space weather outlook, well, they're not anticipating any activity, no problems, and we will not see the aurora down in the lower 48. The common operating picture, well, it's getting quite perplexing here recently. 17 joint field offices with 64 major disasters, 7 emergency declarations. We're still working on direct housing missions. That's repopulation and housing and infrastructure. 9 supported disasters, and 6 joint recovery offices. And that's pretty much anything new from that. Let's jump over here. We'll go back in time and look at the president's schedule. Let me update it real quick to make sure nothing changed, which it didn't appear to. All right, so we'll go back in time to Wednesday after we signed off, and we talked about Tom Holman had a press conference at the Sticks yesterday, and then the president departed and went over to the Kennedy Center and came back. He was quite busy, and then they closed the White House down after 4, and he signed executive orders right before that. All right, so today in pool camera time call is 9 a.m. 11 a.m. he got his intelligence briefing, closed press, and at 1 o'clock from the Oval Office, he's delivering remarks. I haven't seen anything updated on that, but we'll check out our friends over here at WRC and see what they have to say, because they love to keep us updated on what's going on. Let's see. In a significant shift, D.C. police will begin sharing information on undocumented immigrants they encounter during traffic stops with Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. The move will allow immigrants who have not been charged with a crime to be reported to ICE for possible arrest and deportation. Amid Trump's law enforcement takeover in D.C., federal agents turned a busy intersection in a mixed residential commercial area into a police checkpoint, drawing protests from residents. That's not entirely true. It was a D.C. police MPD checkpoint, and the federal officers were there in support. So that's worded a little bit different. Governor DeSantis is preparing to open a second immigration detention facility at a state prison in North Florida. Deportation Depot, as DeSantis called it, will be able to hold around 1,300 detainees and will cost about $6 million to become operational. The Labor Department reported Thursday that its Producer Price Index, which measures wholesale inflation before it hits consumers, was up 0.9% from June, 3.3% from a year earlier. And we know that Trump will meet the Russian president on Friday in Alaska. Yeah, I saw this story and I didn't actually cover it. A man is charged with felony assault after being accused of throwing a sandwich at a Customs and Border Protection agent in D.C. A bystander posted pictures on Instagram that allegedly show the incident from over the weekend, with the sandwich circled in red. A man in a pink shirt, I just can't, identified by DC police as 37-year-old Sean Dunn, approached a group of Customs and Border Patrol agents and called one of them a facet, and then apparently he threw a sandwich at them. Yeah. Catch up in the comments here. Brenda said, or Chris says, California only bitches about the problems of everywhere else, deflection from their own ineptitude under Gavin Newsom. And Chris says, I would love if someone asked Trump about Magadaminate. He would have no idea about any of it, but I guarantee his answer would be absolutely hilarious and the best TV ever. Maybe he could answer it while he's in Russia over the next 48 hours. Good Lord. So, a pink-shirted warrior is arrested for throwing a sandwich. Yay. So we talked about DC police increasing cooperation with ICE. That must be from the executive order that he put out yesterday. Preparations are being put together very quickly. Mark Rubio says that's for the visit. Advocates say law enforcement will begin evictions and potential arrests of homeless Washingtonians. All right, that's interesting. And we talked about the DeSantis immigration checkpoint prison. And Governor Newsom is also, he's saber rattling to make redistricting plans in response to Texas's gerrymandering. And he posted several X posts where he wrote in all capitals and mimicked our president. Trump has cast doubt on a news conference with Putin. He said in an interview on Fox that he was not sure he would hold a joint press conference. I'm going to have a press conference, but I don't know if it's going to be a joint press conference, he said. We haven't even discussed it. It might be nice to have a joint and then separate press conference. And the U.S.-Russia summit, what to know about it? We pretty much talked about that. We talked about the inflation data. Trump to sign proclamation honoring the 90th anniversary of the Social Security Act as the program faces threats. Okay. Zelensky meets with UK Starmer as Europe braces for the Trump-Putin summit. And this here, we talked about how the federal agents set up a checkpoint. Well, it wasn't the federal agents. It was the Metropolitan Police Department set it up and established it, and then the federal agents come and help them. Uniformed officers with Metropolitan Police Department stood alongside Homeland Security Investigations personnel and several plainclothes agents at the checkpoint in the U Street corridor, one of the first checkpoints set up since Trump temporarily put D.C. under federal control. More than 100 protesters gathered, heckling law enforcement as they stopped cars approaching the checkpoint. In some cases, flagged the vehicle for additional investigation. Some protesters began warning drivers to avoid the checkpoint. They all dispersed without incident. Shocker. They just did their jobs. All right, so we'll look at the daily news briefing. And this is the one from the National Weather Service, pretty much the same. The only thing I think that changes will be the National Hurricane Center. We talked about the forecast, the Dakotas in Minnesota having severe thunderstorms, possible tornadic activity. We'll look at those chances here in a second. Tomorrow, Minnesota moving down into Wisconsin, as well as over on the the Atlantic coast. That can anticipate some strong storms. That's going to continue to move to the northeast, affecting Minnesota, Michigan, and Wisconsin on Saturday. So please stay tuned for more updates on that. Let's look at the tornadic chances. Currently, they say up in the Dakotas and Minnesota, there's only a 2% chance, but there will be high wind through the Dakotas extending back towards the Rockies all day. And the chances of high wind is greater than 15%. This hail forecast is relatively low, but you could possibly in some of those storms see some pea-sized hail. So keep your weather radio locked and loaded. All right, well, we've talked about weather everywhere else. Let's talk about weather down under for our friends. I know they've been listening, and let's talk about it. So we'll start with Cairns. They are experiencing sunny skies, a high of 75 today. And we jump down to Rockhampton. It's mostly clear right now, but it's going to be sunny with a high of 72. Sydney, well, you're partly cloudy, and you're going to stay that way with a high of 65. And along the Gold Coast, you could see some rainfall. Adelaide, moving over there, well, it's raining. You're going to have a high of 59. And then we go to Perth. It's partly cloudy, but it's anticipated to clear up and be sunny today with a high of 63. Port Hedland, well, right now you are clear, and high today is forecast to be 85 with nice sunny skies. Darwin, well, you're going to be the hot spot with a high of 89 and very sunny. We'll skip back over to the US of A and see what weather forecasts in major cities. We'll start with the nation's capital. DC, it's going to be rainy today with a high of 86. New York, well, you're going to be partly cloudy and a high of 89. Jumping up to Boston. Boston, you're going to have partly cloudy skies with a high of 84. Jacksonville, well, you're going to have partly cloudy skies with a high of 93. Down in the Key West area, well, you're going to have high of 86 and sunny skies. Montgomery, Alabama, you're having lots of rain today with a forecast high of 90 degrees. Atlanta, you're partly cloudy You could see some storms later tonight, but your high is only going to be 89. I think over where I'm at, there's going to be some light rain. It's cloudy, and we can anticipate that'll be in the high 80s. Jump over to the West Coast and check out Seattle. Well, Seattle, you're cloudy. You're going to remain that way. The high of 74. Medford, well, you're mostly sunny. High of 85, but it's going to clear up and be a nice day for you. San Francisco, partly cloudy with a high of 62. Down in San Diego, we're looking at 72 degrees, has your high, nice and sunny. Phoenix, well, let's see if you're in the hot spot today. 104 and partly cloudy. How could he be partly cloudy? 104. Up in Vegas, 106 degrees. Dallas, well, you Cowboys are going to be at a high of 95 and partly cloudy skies. Memphis, high of 93 with some rain. Going up to Louisville, we're looking at 90 degrees and partly cloudy skies. Chicago, well, the Windy City is going to have a high of 80, and it's going to be relatively sunny. Did I miss anybody? Kansas City, high of 92 and cloudy. And let's see, what did I miss? Oh, my chat. Let's see. Let's go up to Anchorage and see what the weather is up there for the presidential visit. Let's see. Well, it's cloudy today with a high of 57. Where the hell did that come from? Oh, no idea. And we'll hop over to Moscow and see what it's like over there. I can find Moscow on the map here. Mongolia and Moscow. Where's Moscow? Moscow, right here. It's partly cloudy, high of 66, low of 54. So it's not too much different than where President Putin is coming from. And in case you're curious, if you wanted to be in Greenland, you're getting light snow with 16 degrees. There you go. Can you see anything down here on the South Pole? Anything down here? We'll just check it out. South Pole, negative 36. Whoo! And cloudy. Well, at negative 36, might as well just stay inside. Don't go outside. Can you imagine going from negative 36 to 115 flying into Vegas? Good Lord. Chris says, cloudy to die. Yes, to die. And we'll look at current weather warnings. We got about a half hour left here. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in on Radio X and Dare Media in Australia, as well as our partners at Yerg's Radio. Thank you for tuning in and allowing me to tickle your ears. I ask all of you to come over and find us on YouTube and subscribe to the Paranormal Guys. Paranormal, 3 words, and guys with a Z. All right, so we see these special weather statements popping up for small storms. There's some in Virginia, Florida, Mississippi. We got beach hazards up in Maine. So that's because that's like cold temperatures. Yep, penny to pea-sized hail, gusty winds that could knock down, and it's going to be cool temperatures up there. Okay, cool. Kentucky, storm is moving through your area. Louisiana, you have a severe thunderstorm. So does Mississippi. Maryland, well, you're doing your test message as usual. What? Montgomery County, why do you do a test message? I heard Andy's radio lock up earlier. Was that why they did it? A flood watch in Alaska. We've talked about that. That is from the glacier mount, but it is no longer in effect. That has dissipated. And we look up onto the northeast coast, up around Portland, Maine, down to the Cape of Portsmouth. There are some marine warnings in choppy skies. A severe thunderstorm is moving through actually in Maine with some lightning and $half size hail. Okay. And heat advisories, Kansas, Missouri, Florida, Georgia, Texas. The heat from the Mississippi up is going to be unbearable today. We'll take a look at temperatures here in a minute. Let's come out. This is a new one. Evacuation immediately. Severity extreme. The Wyoming Office of Homeland Security. A fire in Hot Springs, Wyoming is not approaching Thermop. Fire is south of Black Mountain Road and west of Kirby Creek Road, heading northeast. So that was sent out at 12:38 local time and said the status is severe. Evacuate immediately if you're in Wyoming in that area. I've not seen that come up before, so that's kind of interesting. Let's see, make sure this is the same one. And this is Wyoming. Hot Springs County Sheriff advises evacuate immediately due to the Red Canyon fire. They have evacuation shelters set up at the Thermopolis Fire Hall at 400 South 14th Street. So if you are listening in Wyoming and any of those areas, you're being advised to evacuate immediately due to the fast-moving brush fire. Actually, at this point, I don't think it would be brush. I think it's a wildfire. And we see multiple flood and flash flood warnings throughout the southeast due to the spotty showers. Let's look at anything current. Does it show any of the mandatory? Why is it not showing? It's supposed to be showing the warnings. This is going to come up and zoomed in on Georgia. Yeah, there we go. That's better. And let's see. Let's go to Wyoming. See if we can see red flag warnings. Red flag warnings. I don't see the evacuation warnings unless that's down. That's rain. Well, there's red flag warnings for most of Wyoming, Idaho, down to Salt Lake and Utah, really the Four Corners down there. And then, of course, with the forest fires, you're going to get your air quality alerts in the Four Corners region moving to the southeast. So those fire warnings, as the smoke is moving to the southeast, is going to continue and extend. We had the heat advisories, and that's up around, where's that? Sioux Falls, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Omaha, and back down. Well, Memphis and Arkansas. It's going to have effect on all of Oklahoma, spreading all the way down to Louisiana, Mississippi, the corner of Tennessee there, Memphis. Florida, well, you have it, as well as going up through the Gulf Coast of Atlanta. I'm not the Gulf Coast, the Atlantic coast of Georgia into the Carolinas. And then they have several spotty showers in the northeast, some severe ones currently in Louisiana. And we saw those storms up in Maine as well. Oh, well, good news. Brenda is saying she's making an announcement that her daughter is going to have another baby. Congratulations. Congratulations, Brenda. Do you know the sex of it yet, or did you just find out that she was pregnant? All right, so we'll look at the lightning and see what the lightning activity is. And unfortunately, over in that high fire area, oh, wow, they are having some lightning activity. Brenda, congratulations. Let us know when you find out. Phoenix, Flagstaff, between the two of you and down over to Albuquerque and down to the Texas line, there's a small cell there that's producing a lot of electricity. If you go over here into the Gulf Coast, the Gulf is active from Houston all the way to Pensacola, actually further to the east, Tallahassee. That's one pretty good sized storm that goes from Pensacola back to Houston with lots of electrical activity. We go over to the Atlantic coast and we see that the coast, well, if you're in Myrtle Beach area, pretty much from Charleston to Myrtle Beach, thunderstorms with lots of lightning activity. And if you continue up the beach and you get towards Oak Island up to the Chesapeake Bay, you'll see some large cells with some heavy lightning. In fact, Oak Island inland is getting hammered at this moment. Let's look up in the northeast. Fredericksburg, you have a pretty good sized cell in Fredericksburg, Virginia, moving to the northeast. Washington, well, over in Hagerstown, Upper Marlboro, there's a pretty good sized cell. That's going to be moving to the east. And up in true total blank where that is. Up in Maryland to the suburbs of Baltimore, there's some heavy lightning and rainfall there. So That's going to extend all the way up almost to Harrisburg. So be prepared there. And I don't think we can see just yet the effects of Erin. She's probably out here somewhere, but we really aren't getting an idea of the electrical activity with her just yet. These are the outer bands. So remember, she's going to be making a push to the northwest with all those storms that are coming out. Let's look at an update on the power outages in the U.S. currently. And we see, well, California, no, I don't want you to know who I am. California is currently got 25,676 without power. That's mostly in Calaveras. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, county. And let me go back and see up in Mass. Well, down in Bristol, you have 12,005 without power. So in Massachusetts, those are the two areas with the highest reported power outages at this time. So California, 25,676, Mass with 12,048. Colorado, well, they have 5,859. Minnesota has 5,482. And Kentucky has 4,622. If you're curious about power outages in your area, you can go over to poweroutages.us and check it out. All right, so let's look at the National Hurricane Center because, they've been dooming this one already. So we have Erin out here, and they're concerned that Erin, well, her winds are continuing to the north-northeast. It's not affecting the Atlantic coast yet, but it will be moving that way. They're anticipating by Monday, 8 a.m., she will be southwest of Bermuda, headed straight towards the Carolinas. And I'm just going to call it right now, Oak Island is going to be ground zero. That's my prediction. They have put it more to the north-northeast, so we will see what happens with that. But you have plenty of time to get prepared. We're still talking at 8 a.m. on Tuesday. She's still going to be significantly offshore, and you will have a chance to prepare. So start preparing now. And where she goes, well, we're still not quite 100% yet. So keep your eyes and ears open. Keep your weather radio on. Tropical Storm Erin next week is going to be a major storm. There are several disturbances behind it, but none are organized yet. So the cyclone down in the Gulf, it's just kind of sitting there. It has sat there for the past 2 days, and it's not really doing much. So they're anticipating that the chances of it doing anything is the next 48 hours is about 40%. And as for the next 7 days, if it continues to sit there, it's just going to be a rain and wind hazard and will not be forming into a tropical storm. Denise says, stay away from New York. Well, she looks like she's staying away from New York. So let's hope she does. Let's see. This is from the National Space Weather Prediction Center. And they're saying that there is nothing. It is all green. The aurora forecast does not anticipate affecting the lower 48. Look at the heat risk. And we've talked about this already. Florida, code red. Code red means it's a major. You want to make sure that you are wearing proper protection if you're outdoors in the sun. You want to stay hydrated and take breaks and get cool as often as you can. When you hydrate with water. It's the best. I mean, unless you can find breast milk ice cream. If you can find breast milk ice cream, let me know. So from Maine all along the Atlantic seaboard down to the Floridian Georgia line, it's code orange, and back inland as far inland as the district and West Virginia. Then in the south, it continues pretty much from St. Louis all the way down to the Gulf. Following the river, it's code orange, as well as on the western side with Missouri and Arkansas. And straight up the center here, the Dakotas down into Colorado, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and Texas, code orange. Code orange is moderate. You should still be prepared when you're outside, and you should have something to drink, hydrate, and take cooling breaks. But if you're in southern Texas or Florida today, code red for the heat. It's going to be a hot day. In fact, let's look at the temperatures real quick. All right, currently the hottest spot we have is Phoenix. 101 is their forecasted high. So is Vegas. Currently, they're only at 97. Houston, you're anticipating 93. And Dallas, you're anticipating 93, but they're showing that it's already 94. Memphis, 93. But you move back over to the east where I am, and it's only giving me high 80s. We see down here in Jackson, 93. New Orleans, 87. Expecting to be the 90s. It's going to follow the river up, and the hottest parts are going to be right on the east and west sides of the Mississippi. And then if you go over to the center of the country from Bismarck to Houston, that's where the other wave of hot air is. Let's zoom out real quick and go down to Australia and see what they got. All right, so currently in Brisbane, it is 48 degrees. We talked about that earlier. I think you're anticipating a high of 70. Sydney, you're currently 61. Now you're getting close to your high of 65 today. And Adelaide, your high is anticipated to be 59. It's currently 50 degrees. Perth, well, you're looking at 50 degrees right now. I'm sorry, 48 degrees right now. And your high is only going to get to 68. And Carnarvon, I'm always pronouncing that one wrong. It's 76, but it's only 63 right now. So Darwin, you're looking at a high of 78 today. No, a high of 89. It's currently 78. So there you go. If you zoom out, you can see on the larger map where the heat is currently. It is all north of the equator considerably. So, all right, let's move on because we ain't got a whole lot of time left. Nope, close. Dang it, where did it go? All right, so there are currently no tsunami warnings. Watches are threats. Always good news. And Alice Spring is lonely at 47 degrees. Yes. All right, so no tsunami warnings. Watches are threats. Take a look at the big, beautiful blue perfect globe and look at the current wind conditions. I wish I had a 50-inch plasma TV. I could just sit and watch this. That would be fun. See, most of the wind is off of the Atlantic coast, skirting the coast up to Nova Scotia. And the other wind is moving out of the Gulf up to Canada, where it's meeting that front and kind of circulating a little bit. Wind coming off of the Pacific isn't too bad. It's really just skirting the coast, so it's probably making for great conditions to surf. We see the tropical disturbance Erin down here spinning. We'll see in a minute how she's being hampered by growing. It's when she gets through this wind and she gets up in here that she's going to be able to cause some real havoc. Australia, well, currently most of your wind is on the west side of the continent, with it moving slightly inland to the west. So it's coming from the south to the west. Slight breeze. All right, let's go out and look at the next thing because we only got about 10 minutes left and we've got to fly through some things here. All right, the interactive map of air quality. We'll just say right now it sucks. Because that smoke coming down from Canada is really, really, really bothering the people up around the Great Lakes. It's code yellow, but we can anticipate that that'll be moving to the northeast, over affecting New York, Boston, up to Nova Scotia, where the conditions are currently favorable, but they will probably change to a code yellow. Right now, it looks like the worst air is in Detroit and Toronto with code orange. Texas, down along the Gulf Coast, back over towards Austin and Midland, code yellow. And pretty much from Jefferson City, St. Louis, Indianapolis, up to the Great Lakes is code yellow with the exception of Detroit and Toronto. Back over to the west, Salt Lake, code yellow all the way over to Denver. Get along the Pacific coast, and it's mostly all around greater Los Angeles area, some sparse ones up around Carson City, and then, of course, back over to Phoenix as well. Let's look at those fires real quick, and we'll see the fires. We don't see this one down here in Jacksonville. That one's new, 400 acres. The Plummer Creek fire doesn't say much about that one. And we see this is the Backbone. That one, well, that one was reported yesterday, and they haven't got any real progress on it. But we go up here into Wyoming. We see these areas like this one here is the Spring Creek fire that is just starting. And you got over here. What is this one here? They don't have a name for this one. But Wyoming right now, you have some code red and some evacuation orders. And if you're in Idaho Falls, there's some code red for fire danger. Pretty much all of Utah down to the Four Corners region on the Colorado side. And then you can expect some in Phoenix, down in Arizona, and Albuquerque down in New Mexico. So those fires are burning pretty intense there along the Rocky Mountains. And then, of course, if we zoom out and look, Canada is still just burning. So Canada is on fire pretty much. Let's see if we can get a picture of the smoke today. And we talked about those winds moving up to the north, to the northwest, just a slight breeze. We see how that's broke up the smoke. And so it's pushing the smoke from the Colorado, Arizona, all the Rocky Mountain fires. That's pushing the air to the Pacific side. So that's giving the center of the country a break here. And it's also pushed that smoke. Really, we talked about Detroit being one of the worst city up to Ottawa. And it's really pushed it all out of the continental U.S., that wind break we're getting right now. Let's look at the air quality movement map. And we'll get a much better picture. And we see that the wind's coming out of the Gulf, and we see that it's separating the smoke and pushing it back to the Pacific and up into Canada, where it's hitting that front down there, and it's moving out towards Nova Scotia. We talked about the dust earlier. If you look coming off of Africa, she is right in the middle of that dust right now. And so she's not getting the ability to grow much, but you can see how she's dispersing the dust up into the Atlantic. When she crosses out of that little front that's coming off of Africa, pushing the dust into her, that's when she's going to be allowed to get warmer. And that's when Erin's going to be a real pain in her butt next week. So we'll see how much energy and momentum she gains as she clears through this little wind trough of dust right now that's cooling her off. Go down to Australia and look at your air quality. And with the fires burning to the north of Brisbane, that smoke is pushing up to the west, northwest, and the fires down along the eastern side. Had to think there. Gold Coast, the eastern side, those fires there, that's pushing up and through Perth. I'm sorry, not through Perth, through Brisbane. And over here on the western side of the continent, the smoke and fires are pushing down to the southeast, going down towards the coast down there. So all in all, not too bad of air quality in Australia, except around those areas immediately affected. All right, we got about 5 minutes. The global seismic activity today, moderate, but there were several rapid earthquakes from a 2 something to a 4 something in California. They all happened within 4 minutes of each other. The worst was a 4.0, which was in Paso Robles, California. Volcanic report, Sitkin, you are still orange. Spur, you are yellow. Kilauea, you are orange. And the most recent earthquake, 3 hours ago, 2.8 in North Carolina. And where were those earlier today in California? There were several of them back to back to back. Let's see if I can find it over here. Zooming in. Yeah, it's not going to let me. Yeah, Greater Los Angeles had a 2.4, and that was the most recent one there. But they had several back to back this morning that was cause for concern. We'll look at real quick at the disaster alerts. See, there's some new notifications here. Wind in Queensland and flooding in Florida are the most recent alerts. We'll look at Erin out here, and she's just a pain. She'll be moving to the northeast. We'll keep an eye on her. We're running out of time here, so I won't be able to get to the event list. You can see real quick if there's any shady activity. It's really hard to say with the president being moved. We see a lot of stuff coming up. They don't really show a track line for it, so it's hard to say where it's coming from and where it's going. And so there's an E38 up there. Interesting. All right. And it's kind of doing some circling. So that's a sniffer. There was concerns that something could be brought into the country, so they must have the sniffer up. I don't see anything coming out of Washington, D.C. We did see, nope, not there. Did I close it? Right here. They've already started closing off airspace in advance, national security, and then down in here, they've already closed it off. So you can see that pretty much all the airspace is coming up as no-fly zones in the areas around the military base in Anchorage. They have it already set off, so don't try and go up there. Look at Bitdefender real quick here as we go out, and we see, well, as usual, America's getting pummeled. All right, well, I'm almost out of here for the day, guys and gals. I'd like to thank you for tuning in and listening to me ramble for about 2 hours so far. I appreciate everybody's support. I thank you for hitting the thumbs up button and sharing it and subscribing it. And remember, tonight I have the show on Big Brother. That's 10 p.m. local time. So we have that tonight coming up. So I'm looking forward to that. And if you are a fan, next Thursday, we're going to have a surprise celebrity guest. Yes, we're going to have an ex-house guest. Her non-disclosure is clear and she can come on. So looking forward to that. Everybody have a great day. I'm going to get out of here before they cut me off. Sportcat is out. We will see you tonight on the Big Brother show. And of course, I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same location, same bat channel to give you more gossip and news, because the world's not going to end today.